Good morning. Welcome to the final Carsey Policy Hour of the season. I am UC Terrell. The Carsey Policy Hour is the UNH Carsey School of Public Policy's monthly discussion series for policymakers, public service professionals, and active citizens and organizations on the issues and policies that affect the Granite State and New England. Our topic this month is decarbonization from the ground up, climate advocacy and utility partnerships, with a spotlight on one particular partnership that is inspiring learning and replication for both its technology and financing, as well as for its stakeholder engagement process. Welcome to our speakers, Zeyneb Magavi from HEET and Liam Needham from Eversource Energy of Massachusetts and Connecticut. This session is co-produced by the New England Municipal Sustainability Network, or NEMS Network, and its institutional backbone, the UNH Sustainability Institute. NEMS is a consortium of New England cities and towns that collaborate to build more sustainable communities. I'll read their vision. It's to create a sustainable New England by building strong connections among municipal sustainability professionals throughout the region, allowing members to accomplish more than would be possible alone. I'll say NEMS truly is a remarkable group of municipal leaders committed to sustainability and learning from and with one another. Many are here today. If you are interested in joining NEMS, please contact Dovev Levine at the email address that he'll drop into the chat. We'd also like to thank our other Carsey Policy Hour series partners, the New Hampshire Municipal Association, New Hampshire Association of Counties, and New Hampshire's Bureau of Education and Training. Now, we discussed the energy transition a fair bit in the Carsey Policy Hour series, and my colleague Laurel Lloyd will drop links of recent sessions and related trainings that we offer into the chat. But this is our first spotlight on geothermal solutions, in particular networked geothermal that can serve an entire neighborhood rather than just large-scale business and industry or private projects. This is a timely topic for two reasons. First, networked geothermal continues to develop as an efficient, reliable, renewable energy solution. We have this neighborhood scale system up and running in Framingham, Massachusetts, and the project has gotten a lot of publicity in the energy world. Some headlines tout the project as an unlikely coalition of climate activists and a gas utility, but we'll see it's not that unlikely. It can be and is a replicable win-win model. The second motivator for this session is policy and politics. The Trump administration's approach to energy policy generally favors fossil fuels, but geothermal energy has emerged as an exception. Its January executive order defines energy resources to include geothermal heat, though not solar or wind, and the executive order commits to expediting energy and infrastructure projects. Today, we are fortunate, to have a foremost expert in network geothermal systems and someone deeply enmeshed in its shifting policy landscape in Zeyneb Magavi from HEET. Our session will go like this. First, Zeyneb will set the stage on the need and opportunity and share HEET's evolving role. Second, Liam Needham, who directs sales and marketing at Eversource Energy, Massachusetts and Connecticut, will go into the details of the Framingham project. Zeyneb will close out the presentation by updating us on current policy landscape and looking forward. We'll enter into an engaging discussion and Q&A. Please do drop your questions and comments throughout the presentation so we can organize the flow of the latter half. If your Zoom ID is unclear, please do identify yourself in each remark. Presentations and slides will be available online. I'm really excited for the discussion and I'm going to turn it over to Zeyneb.
Hi, everybody. I hope this sound is okay.
Yes.
I am dialing in from New Orleans, and delighted to be in New Hampshire. I'm going to start us out with a little bit of background and framing of where HEET saw the problem, along with a large and very wide spectrum of other people looking at a series of challenges. And I'm just getting my slides, which, if the PowerPoint gods agree, will be there. We go. Has everyone can see think thermal together?
Perfect.
All right, wonderful. So I think first of all, at HEET, we were approaching this from a how do we solve climate change, and began with a large and wide variety of other advocates and activists to realize that methane emissions, which gas is methane, are 84 times the impact of carbon dioxide in the first 20 years. And that's actually kind of terrifying because that's really huge. And it also means it's the largest emergency brake for climate we have, which was kind of exciting. Any little bit of methane emissions we cut, we started with gas leaks, has an outsized positive impact on our climate. Okay. And then we started to learn more, and this is methane blanketing the earth. There we go. So we're like, okay, this is a good place to focus. We need to reduce methane emissions. So we focused on gas leaks, which nobody loves a gas leak. And we built a successful collaboration with a wide variety of people. There are many people involved, as the title states, from climate activists to gas utilities, the whole range. And HEET really drove the research and the convening around finding a method to reduce the volume of methane from gas leaks. And actually, we were really successful, and it was the first basis of a relationship between the gas utilities and a wide range of people, including HEET. And I think that relationship is a part of this story. So this gas leaks work was really the foundation of it. It was a long and wonderful story that I'm not telling today, but we have cut significantly gas leak emissions in Massachusetts thanks to a method co-developed with all of us. And in the process, we also realized that another way we were cutting gas leak emissions from aging infrastructure was replacing the gas pipe with new gas pipe. And every time a gas pipe goes in, it takes decades to pay off, and it's paid off by ratepayers paying for it over decades. So this is the latest number from some analysis for how much the U.S. is investing in gas pipe over the between now and 2050. It's a huge number, $1.4 trillion. So why is that? And then this is not even a parallel number. This is just by 2035 instead of 2050, an estimate for the amount invested in electric grid infrastructure. And this map is for downtown Boston, and it's all of the capacity constrained areas on the electric system. And so it began to dawn on us that we had a kind of multipolar crisis in our energy system. Without even talking about climate, setting it aside, we're at the end of a lot of aging infrastructure. We built our infrastructure in an era long ago, 100 years, and we now have a kind of end-of-life situation with a tremendous amount of aging infrastructure and a tremendous amount of investment needed. And then all of that investment gets paid for, and we have, well, here's one number, 27% of households have trouble paying their energy bills. And there's an affordability crisis in a lot of ways, in a lot of places, and a lot of people are struggling with bills. So 100 years ago when we built the infrastructure, we weren't exactly in the same situation. So how do we reinvest, rebuild at our energy infrastructure, which is the basis of our economy, in a way that does not exacerbate or could potentially even help solve the affordability challenge? Oh, and jobs, of course, is linked. I'm just making this as complex as possible. And there's this number I got from the gas industry. I don't, the 4.1 million US jobs. I'm not totally clear on the boundaries on that, but there's a lot of jobs. We can all agree on that. There's a lot of jobs in the gas industry and in the electric and building all of it. And so we end up, I'm just framing, and I could keep going with all of the challenges that intersect, but I'm just framing that the question we end up with ends up being, how do we keep ourselves comfortable as humans in our buildings, affordably, reliably, safely, and sustainably? And if we are going to try to solve this puzzle, how do we do it while not harming the climate? And so that's the setup for HEET's approach to this. And again, with the engage all stakeholders, which the the title alludes to, we really do. There have been many meetings where we have substantially worried about and talked about avoiding fights. And we always have, just for the record. The process of getting everyone in the room talking really humanizes everyone. And if you constrain the conversation and really listen to every voice, it is the best possible way to get true information, to find where there are levers and opportunities for the system to shift. And then you can focus on those places and innovate and iterate, passing ideas back to the stakeholders, hearing from the stakeholders their ideas, and evolving an approach in a very dynamic way. And that process itself builds trust. This is what happened around the gas leaks, and this is what happened in our effort to solve this larger problem. Looking back now and simplifying it all, I'm going to carefully explain how we solved the problem so far. And the first thing I need you to do is pause for a moment and think about thermal energy. We're just going to use the word. Thermal energy is heat energy. Cold is basically just less heat energy, people. It's relative to how you feel. The Earth is absorbing heat energy from the sun. It's also holding more thanks to greenhouse gases. And so we have both natural thermal energy, which allows us all to survive, and it's increasing. Either way, this is a note from the International Energy Agency, IEA, which they did their first ever geothermal report, and that heat energy in the surface of the Earth, bedrock, water, rivers, is geothermal. They basically said in a sweeping statement that there's enough geothermal to meet all heating needs. They did not model cooling needs yet, so we're going to work on that one. So to give you a sense, we have enough thermal energy naturally there to heat all our buildings. So that's a crazy statement when you think about it, and it's really founded in science. When I said geothermal, I just want to clarify, because the word geothermal does mean a lot of different things. It is actually more like a family of technologies, and it provides stable, non-intermittent energy, no matter where and which technology. But all of those ones on the left, if you're thinking about Iceland and hot lava, that's not what we're talking about today at all. We're talking about that surface of the Earth, quote unquote shallow. I prefer the word ambient to shallow. It's the anywhere geothermal, no earthquake risk, no high risk of locating the only place that it exists. It is everywhere beneath our feet. So just clarifying on that. All right, so I have a little beautiful hand-drawn video by a former HEET employee that I'm going to play for 1 minute that explains how the system of network geothermal puts together pieces that we already know into a new thing that taps this geothermal energy. So I'm going to give it a go here.
Right beneath our feet, the Earth is soaking up energy from the sun, and it's been doing this for a long time. Near the surface, the ground warms and cools with the seasons, but lower down, it stays at a constant temperature. In Massachusetts, that's 55 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. This stored temperature is a source of renewable energy. It can be accessed to heat or cool a single building without using fossil fuels. But did you know we can also connect entire communities to that renewable source in the ground? How does it work? It starts with underground pipes in the streets, sort of like gas pipes, but filled only with water. The water absorbs the ground temperature of the earth and delivers it to buildings. Pipes connect buildings with different heating needs, so energy is never wasted. Instead, it's exchanged between buildings or stored in the ground until it's needed. Inside, a heat pump moves heat in or out according to the temperature you want. This system of pipes can connect like Lego blocks, gradually moving us all from gas to geo, giving us cleaner air, efficient heating and cooling, and a healthier planet. The idea for this networked geothermal system, run at a utility scale, originated at HEET, a climate solutions nonprofit. Learn more right beneath our...
Almost hit play again. So I'm just going to wrap up my explanation and turn it over soon. But if the pieces that were illustrated in that video are the buildings have a geothermal heat pump. There's a distribution system, which is a pipe of water in the street, kind of like your gas pipes in the street, except it's filled with water, water with glycol if needed for antifreeze. And then there's geothermal boreholes and also any other thermal energy resources you might have available, which opens up a whole thermal market as you scale. And there's a bunch of thermal resources that are available in that range that are not useful at all until you build this thermal network. So each of the components that were illustrated are absolutely old tech. I mean, we're talking pipes and pumps. Geothermal heat pumps have been around for 50 years. Geothermal boreholes, they last longer than 50 years and also have been around. But when you put them together, you have new technology. And that's actually kind of exciting because we need to move forward quickly. And we know the pieces put together work. In fact, we're very lucky today to really get to hear about what's illustrated here as that first demonstration project. Part of what I want to make clear is that the specific design of this matters. And having what we call a single pipe in a loop in an ambient temperature range is a really critical part of the design that allows it to be utility scale. It'll work fine for one project with a lot of other designs, multiple pipes, different temperatures, but this scalability and also the efficiency we get from that is really essential to that utility growth model, which allows you to then build the next loop and the one after that, and incrementally build a regional scale thermal network, and therefore you have built a thermal market and really transformed the basis of our energy system. And so I'm going to pause there because what we set out to do was demonstrate that all of these system requirements by the wide range of stakeholders, and these are the requirements that would allow everyone's core needs to be met to move forward. We wanted to show that they were possible, not entirely, but just possible. And so I think I want to turn it over now to Eversource Gas, who was the first to respond to our feasibility study and file permission to demonstrate the technology.
Thank you, Zeyneb. I think I'll jump in here. That was a great overview and nice video. You have an artist on your team for sure. That was really cool. And I will bring up my slides here. No, I appreciate being here and a great setup from Zeyneb today. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the specific pilot that we have at Eversource, which is in Massachusetts, and kind of step through what's happened out there so far, what we see in the future, and you know, a few policy updates. I think why we are where we are today in Massachusetts. So this pilot is in Framingham, Massachusetts. Framingham is just west of Boston, small city. Was selected as this pilot participant, and this project was actually proposed in what's called a rate case for one of our operating companies in Massachusetts, N-Star Gas. Back in 2019, it was proposed. So that's how the project got approved in a pilot state by a gas company, which is kind of an odd thing if you're thinking about it. But it was approved by the Department of Public Utilities in 2020. And the DPU had specific criteria to make this project work and things they wanted to see. So it's a mixed use case. So there's residential along the route. There's some small commercial here on the route as well. And it has about 375 tons of heating and cooling. So a nice size project, in the city. So along the path here, there was a feasibility and site selection process. So multiple communities were involved at the start. And Framingham was ultimately selected to be the host community. And then really from there was an area, if you zoom out from this spot, there were multiple designs and routes that could have been taken here. And really we had to work on getting interest along the route and introduce the concept to customers along the path. Now, Framingham happens to be an Eversource franchise area for natural gas and electricity. So we serve those customers both on the electric and gas side. So we had a relationship with them. They knew us, they knew who we were, and the services that we provided. So we had that available. And we were able to whittle this down to the route you see on the screen, based on interest, loads, et cetera, and what we could handle. And that work happened in 2022 and 2023, finalizing this route, which was ultimately selected. So as I mentioned, there's a few different types of customers here along the route. We actually have a segment of a housing authority. The Framingham Housing Authority is right there. There's 96 apartments in that facility. We have a community center, a Framingham Public School building. We have a small retail corner cabinet shop. And we have a gas station as well as Framingham Fire Department. So, just from there, you can tell the level of engagement needed from the community and the city to get this project off the ground. There's about 20 customers on the residential side here. So all in, we call it about 140 end users or customers across 36 buildings on this loop. This loop is about 1 mile of pipe, closed loop system. So it goes around the block, if you will. And there are a few bore field drilling sites that are there. And that, as Zeyneb showed earlier, that drilling down into the earth, that was a really, you need to do that as part of this project, and we need space to do that. We also have monitoring equipment along the loop as well, just monitoring flow, pressures, temperatures, all the things that you'd want within a system, things that are, we do on day-to-day, like natural gas type work. We monitor the system, we monitor flow, pressures, where energy goes. And the same could be said for the type of work here, digging and putting pipe in the ground, is work that gas companies do every single day. So very similar work. Community engagement. This one slide would never do this justice, to be quite honest. There were many things had to come together, to work through this project. The city of Framingham certainly has been a great partner throughout this. I think, as Zeyneb mentioned, you need a lot of stakeholders to make this thing work. It's not any one entity alone being able to carry the ball. Certainly, HEET support, the city's support, state support, internal support at Eversource, industry support. Some of the things that we did here, to engage the community. We had many meetings. You can see some of the pictures, meeting with residents at Framingham Housing Authority. We partnered up with the schools in Framingham, and we actually did an Introduce a Girl to Engineering and Science for middle school students at the Fuller Middle School, which is actually right around the corner from this project. So, taking that step, getting involved in the community, very important. We did lots of mailers, webinars. We have an ongoing newsletter, updates around the project as well to community members. So we've had a lot of support there. One thing too on this project that is different from other types of infrastructure projects that a gas company might work on is the drilling component. In this picture here, you can actually see this is a drill rig. That equipment takes up a fair amount of space, and has to be placed and is used to drill those boreholes and bore fields, which ultimately that's kind of the energy source here to make this work. This partnership with the city, these bore fields are really the biggest one really is in the city, under a city parking lot. So we needed space to do the work as well. So when you think about a partnership on infrastructure projects, right? If you think about electric lines or gas pipes, usually under the road, along the edge of a public right-of-way, the project like this, that's really not going to work. I don't think we could set up a drill rig, in the middle of a city or a street. That was going to be very difficult work to do with 3 sites. So, that partnership really paid a lot of dividends to use a parking lot, to be able to partner with the city on that and work it from that angle. There were also equity and environmental justice considerations here. There certainly Framingham is environmental justice community. There's multiple languages spoken, and we had to translate materials as such. But that was a big portion of this project. It's diverse and it's mixed. So a few photos that you see here: Introduce a Girl to Engineering, that partnership, community meetings, a site, the bore field and drilling site itself. And, we're out there quite a bit, and it's hard to tell what one of these pictures is before and after, but this is actually a turtle tunnel that we built as part of the project here. There's a pond nearby where turtles go and come, kind of go to and fro, and they had to cross the construction area. And there was some concern actually within the community that the turtles would get hurt, killed, etc. Didn't have a clear path to go. So we actually built a tunnel here so they could make their way to and from the pond to lay their eggs, during that season. So, just another illustration of the partnership and communication within the project. Customer communication, like I mentioned, we did quite a bit. We had to get people comfortable with the concept of this project. I think we had some trust built up. We did have customers along the route. However, we're introducing a new concept to them. It's a pilot. They have to put some faith in what we're doing here. So we had tons of touch points, everything from door hangers, in-home visits, brochures. We actually had a community partner here. You can see one of our folks in this truck. Cindy Galvin, she certainly was a huge part of this project, providing in-field support around customer questions. And there were a lot of questions. How will this work? What will my bill be? What if I have a problem? What if there's an issue? Who do I call? The list goes on and on and on. We needed somebody out there to really run point on this project, and she took the leap there. In another neat component of this, the corner cabinet was very gracious. This is a tent we set up in their parking lot to have sort of in-field office hours. People could drop by anytime. We set it up in the afternoon in the summer. Folks could come by really anytime, talk about the project, anything they needed, right? So you can imagine the gamut of questions that we'd have coming at us that around the project, around other things. Anything I think was fair game when we're out there. So answering a lot of questions and really trying to be proactive, but give people that personal touch in an avenue to ask questions around the project. One thing that's not on here is the translated materials. We did a lot of translations into different languages, including Spanish, Portuguese. I think we did one in Mandarin as well. But trying to just make sure everyone really understood the project, had the materials needed to make decisions, understood what was coming, what was next, what's happening. So everyone really understood that. I want to talk a little bit about expansion. Zeyneb hit this, if you think about this loop, Zeyneb kind of put it in a nice way. It's like a Lego block. So we have the ability to build off of this system. And, we have a proposal here and are actually waiting for Department of Energy funding for an expansion here off of this project. So the design phase is done. We received that DOE award for implementation funding. We're just continuing to wait. And Zeynep can definitely weigh in more on the policy components here, but we're waiting patiently. HEET in the city are certainly, this is like a triangle, if you will. So we've got three legs of the stool. HEET and the city have been, super involved, and we're waiting as well to just hear this. But as you can imagine, with the administration change, some things are slowing down a bit. But geothermal has made it through here and has continued to have support. So once we get that, we'll have to go back to the DPU in Massachusetts for approval on the final funding and kind of sort that out. But we're confident it's coming. We're waiting. We're anxious and ready to get going on that. So this will expand the capacity here. It'll be 400 tons of load. We'll bump the customer count up to 180. So a nice swing off of this project with very minimal capex, so minimal drilling. A lot of it will be covered by DOE funding. So about 14 million estimated in the capex. More than half of that would be covered. Looking at 2027 there. So we've got about a mile of pipe in the ground. This would add another 2,000 feet of main, 50 boreholes, which is about one spot there. Some pumps, and then instrumentation, which is really a fancy way of saying is how we're going to measure and monitor the system as it's stood up. I wanted to just talk about new construction in the market for it. This project in Framingham is a retrofit. So most of the homes and businesses along this route, prior to having the geothermal heating and cooling system installed, either were heating with natural gas, oil, or electric resistance. Actually, the Framingham Housing Authority had electric resistance for all their units. And then most of the units either didn't have central air, or they simply had window units, or no AC units at all. So that's a change for them. But retrofit is difficult, particularly in New England with an older housing stock. A lot of buildings have forced hot water systems, they have baseboard heating, might not have ductwork. So a lot of that work in the home that we facilitated is tricky. The homes weren't designed that way. Installing ductwork and making room for new systems can be difficult. And it's invasive in people's homes, to be honest. So it's a lot of work, and it's tricky. So new construction presents a different type of opportunity. And this really, if you think about a design component, if we built it up and had a design for a network geothermal or any sort of geothermal project from the jump, that's going to help, in terms of cost in getting new homes onto a system. And there's some partnership components there as well. So, housing is at top of the list here. I think within New England, across the country, certainly Massachusetts, there's a shortage. I know we're talking about New Hampshire. There's a story in New Hampshire this morning on the news. Housing is not cheap, and there's not much of it. And trying to get more housing is certainly the energy component of it, not going to solve it. But we think that there's an opportunity here for new construction to adopt, network geothermal. It'll meet specialized energy code that's set up in Massachusetts for new construction, stretch energy codes that communities adopt. Also, those IRA incentives should be there to help lower those installation costs as well. And this can provide just an alternative to air source heat pumps, propane, oil, as builders are making decisions around these things, we want to provide just another tool in the toolbox to be able to help them and help the end user ultimately make a smart decision on energy and energy costs, and kind of lock that in over the term. You think about geothermal, once you tap that energy into the ground, that that's your supply. That's not going to fluctuate in an energy market. That's not going to fluctuate ever. That cost would be locked in. So if you think about it that way, it's a really hyper local energy supply, and it's a cost that could be there just for you and never move. So that's kind of what we're thinking on the new construction side. We're still having discussions and thinking about this in Massachusetts and Connecticut, trying to come up with the concept and a framework for this. We think we're getting closer, and that's the way that our current thinking stands. So kind of this new construction major renovations component, I think there's an opportunity to reduce the customer side costs, as I mentioned. Reducing the actual capex and network geothermal. We think as we get more projects and learn more in drilling, there's some competitive bids that we could use, kind of reduce that upfront cost as well. Zeyneb hit on this a little bit as well. Geothermal energy is very efficient. So Zeyneb had a slide there about the cost for building out the electric distribution system. There's a lot of money and there's a lot needed to support electrification, full electrification particularly. And geothermal is one way to help reduce those build out costs by having more efficient heating and cooling equipment to potentially reduce build out costs on the electric side. And as I mentioned, just provide an alternate option to electrify the new building stock here. Before I wrap this up, you may think, well, why the heck is Eversource Gas Company doing this? Why is that? Well, Eversource is set up, really in kind of three main business units. We have an electric distribution company, so we operate in New Hampshire as an electric distribution mostly. We have electric transmission, so those are long haul, bringing energy and electricity long haul to the distribution system. And then we have our gas distribution system, which we operate in Massachusetts and Connecticut. And as I mentioned, a lot of the work is very similar. That work is pipe in the ground. It's similar to geothermal, and that's the reason we got this approved in our rate case. That work is very similar to gas work, and also from a policy perspective, Massachusetts, particularly where we have operations, there's legislation now that allows gas companies to operate as thermal service providers. So it's sort of coming around on the policy side, where it's recognized that there's an energy transition. There's been a future of gas docket opened by the DPU has been open for about 4 or 5 years at this point. And it's all about this transition. And I think there's a recognition that the work that we do is very similar: underground construction, hooking up customers, and then all the support that comes behind it, for scalability, right? We have customer service, billing, et cetera, on down the line, maintenance, if something happens, things that happen to energy networks throughout the day, the months, the years. Eversource and other utilities are set up to already handle situations like that. So, from our perspective, it seems like a logical place to look for opportunity. I think the states recognize it as well, and more policies coming and changing. So, that's sort of my overview here. When we are able to make that transition or come around on it in some of these other areas, I think we're poised to be there, in partnership with HEET, with communities, with others, builders, et cetera, all stakeholders to really make these things work. So, lastly, just a little plug here. I'll drop some of these in the chat. We have a newsletter. We have stuff on our website. We, an overview of the site itself, and I'll throw the link in there so y'all can take a look at it on your time. So that's all for me, and I'll turn it back over to Zeyneb.
Unmute. There we go. Yes. So just for visuals, this is the site you just heard all about, and I'm going to try to do kind of a lightning round of what happened next, and I've got a few pictures here I'll just leave up for people to see because I think they're amazing. On the left are a bunch of gas workers installing geopipe, which they did seamlessly. They went from 1 week to the next and back again, from gas to geo and back to gas. Same with so many of the jobs, but the geothermal drilling jobs are the gap, which we have been building a regional effort and training to try to address. Even outside of this network geothermal, there is a gap in geothermal drillers for individual homes or schools. So that's an exciting thing, is that there's just a lot of jobs for people. And I want to mention that first project, Liam kept mentioning the kind of partnership, and there were actually structurally present partnerships, including HEET leading a research team that brought scientists and researchers from all over the country together around this project to learn as much as possible in order to answer as many of your questions as possible with data. And we built a techno-economic model, a national, actually global database of these projects for everyone to learn from, and so much more. And that was a wonderful learning and collaborative process the whole way through, with exciting outcomes coming soon. I want to mention, because I just think this is so relevant and important, that one of the things we are confirming with this project is the impact on the electric grid, and the idea that you could move that many customers in Framingham to electrically run heat pumps without raising the load on the electric grid is a critical one when we think about our whole energy system and costs, just like Liam said. So I just want to jump right in and say that this project and others that are in the ground and operating have really shown and demonstrated in various places that each of these is possible, which is a stunning outcome. I just love this picture as well. And part of what has happened is that that incredible collection of outcomes means that there's something for everyone in stakeholder groups. And so when you move to policy and there's questions about that policy pathway, you can convene an extraordinary diversity. And so, just pictures of people showing up, and the idea that gas utilities, gas worker unions, and climate advocates are all showing up together in support of legislation. One of the most powerful examples was the New York legislation, but it's been happening across the country. The most recent legislation that passed was in Texas. Who's opposing, I guess, is the question. And so as long as you've got good, thoughtful ways forward, and this is a very rough approximation of the Massachusetts policy pathway, both legislative and regulatory, that I could go into detail for hours, but it was an incremental evolution of all of us together, carefully doing each step, with the most recent one in 2024 explicitly changing the definition of a gas utility to include the sale of geothermal energy. So, Liam, welcome to the land of being a thermal utility. And you're not alone, because there is gas to geo legislation passed across the country, 9 states now. There's more coming. And Texas was the most recent. There is we've been building networks. That was our approach: networks of people to network buildings. This is just to give you a sense of that. These are all of the gas utilities currently engaged in a coalition learning more about this technology, some of them engaged in demonstration projects. And of course, all spectrum. This is an advocacy network working on legislation, and actually it really has grown since this slide. And just in case you think it's limited to that, no. It's actually spread. For example, the World Bank has initiated a program for geothermal networks in 7 countries and are moving forward with 10,000 building scale, which, by the way, really, really addresses the scaling cost relationship. And there is here a video link for a World Bank, IEA, HEET, and Eversource video that played at the last COP climate meeting. So I hope that just gives you some sense or picture into the extraordinary momentum that this combination of collaborative partnership building and innovation has launched. Eversource gets an endless stream of inquiries, as do we, from all over the world. And I have boiled it down, like, what is it that's driving this? I think there's some really key pieces that I just want to flag. So this is tapping ignored but ubiquitous energy resources. That first thing, the thermal opportunity, is an enormous thing that is just opening up. It's just beginning. 2 is this works, right? Despite most people not knowing about it, it being new, it is ready now and it works. 3 is that it multi-solves. We have a lot of problems on our plate. Like I mentioned and framed in the beginning, we're at the end of life question. So how do we navigate in an affordable way? I want to comment that geothermal energy from geothermal heat pumps and geothermal networks specifically is the lowest monthly cost of energy. It is the lowest O&M cost. It is the lowest life cycle cost, and it's high on the upfront cost. You're basically buying all of your fuel up front. And that challenge has held back the technology, which is why pairing it with a utility, apologies, Liam, is upfront infrastructure cost, long-term payback. That's what you do for society. And so here we have an extraordinary unlocking of an opportunity. So all we have to do is think thermal together. And I have an ask, of course. If you scan that QR code, you can add your name to a list of people, a map of people saying that they would love to have geothermal service at that location. Thank you so much, and I'm really excited for questions.
Zeyneb, Liam, thank you both. We just have a few minutes, so we're going to go right to the heart of it, which is what's in it for me? How do we bring these models where appropriate to, to New Hampshire, to England communities? We have Sharita Humphrey saying, I'm in Texas. Things are moving in the legislature for geothermal. Tim Egan asking, can we bring this to New Hampshire to help us with our energy challenges? You've noted that granite is actually an advantage, which is great. And then our State House Representative Wendy Thomas, who sits on the Science, Technology, and Energy Committee in the House, is asking for a presentation to their committee. So, we're not going to solve everything here today, but we have the right people on the call to keep this moving forward. So the $10 million question is, what factors make for a promising or community or partnership, given the existing policy landscape, the state of failing infrastructure in various degrees across the region and country, where Zeyneb and Liam from Eversource, from the utility perspective, where is worth digging deeper into projects like this?
Well, I'll give it a start, Liam. I think maybe this is a legacy of that, like geothermal power, but people often think, oh, you have to find the spot that this works. The reality is there are very few exceptions to the rule that it works anywhere that you have a cluster of buildings. And the question is more about cost. So if the drilling is really hard, if there aren't that many customers, it's too high cost. And so it's all really a cost equation. And the first loop is always more expensive. And then as the cost comes down, so what you want to do is pick that first project to be as easy as possible on cost as you learn, which is why there's so much effort around this site selection, is to like give this technology its best first chance out of, like, not hit the big problems. And so I just want to say it actually works pretty much anywhere you have a gas system density. This works.
And I guess just to tack on, I mean, I agree with all that. You need some density on the project. Think about a screening criteria, and then I guess the mentality and getting the community or the folks that are ultimately gonna use this to buy in. You need that momentum to get everyone that you possibly can on that network, and that's the lift. The other component is, if there's a larger user, a campus type setting, something like that. We're seeing some of that, in Massachusetts, certainly, and across the country, where there's, kind of one entity to deal with rather than multiple, that you can have a campus type setting and kind of spread that network off on a campus.
So I heard basically anywhere where there's density, it's site selection being important, stakeholder openness, especially Liam, you noted existing customers. Just thinking of that checklist though, especially HEET is getting so many inquiries. Where do you say, oh, there's actually potential for it to move there? And what could a community do to lay that foundation to actually have a chance of moving this forward?
Absolutely. So we actually we like to ask the questions ourselves. So we asked the same question, and we just ran something we call Kickstart over the past year. Interim final reports are coming in, but basically worked with a bunch of interested communities to do community initiated projects. And I think Liam spent a lot of time talking about the community outreach, which was really fabulous in Framingham. It's been, I mean, I wish I could somehow capture the good feeling that is there and put it on a screen, because it's remarkable. And I think, to me, that's the critical piece at the beginning, is where do you have the kind of ability to have that kind of stakeholder network and collaboration and building. It takes a network of people to network buildings. And I think as it scales, that won't matter as much. People will know about it. It'll be a known thing for municipalities. In the beginning, I think the basis is people more than anything else. And our feasibility process reflects that. It focuses on that and slightly deprioritizes that technical process, which is still there.
So our title of From the Ground Up truly is
Yes.
emphasizing people as champions. We have a NEMS member, I believe, asking what municipalities can do on their end to help facilitate this type of process or encourage it in new construction. And it sounds like this is more from the municipal instead of community, but of course they're all related, especially when we live in small communities and can support each other inside and outside of the institutional, of the municipal organization.
Yeah, there's so much to do. I mean, one thing is simply the education is, people keep asking me, what's the biggest barrier to the scaling? I'm like, education. People don't know what it is and need to know. And I think the other thing that I want to flag is that, the old building stock we all have in New England is really challenging. It doesn't matter what technology you're deploying, it really doesn't. It's challenging, right? We have 100 years of delayed maintenance in a lot of buildings, and the minute you cross the threshold as a utility, particularly, you can't ignore the stuff. The asbestos, the mold, the code violations, the faulty wiring. We all know it's there, people. And that is the most cost uncertain, cost driving element. So one of the things we're exploring with the communities that have done this first engagement with external consultants is to look at kind of an aggregated street location building retrofit or building weatherization approach to bring people together to kind of address these things. Because even today, even with the first project in the ground, kind of paying off with a utility finance model, the physical infrastructure in the street is doable. The challenge is that building retrofit process. And I think that is a universal challenge independent of the technology. I don't know if you'd agree, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's challenges, but the one thing I'd say on new construction and like the municipality component is, whether that's depending where you are, the local codes, emissions reductions, and any sort of framework like that, that exists where you are is a good start. And the second thing that it's starting to happen across the country, and we've seen this actually out in Colorado. Dandelion Energy partnered with a major builder, Lennar Homes, and they're committed to 1,500 homes over the course of the next few years on ground source heat pumps and geothermal technology. So even if it's not a specific code, in your community, the builders and energy providers are starting to partner as well and think about how to differentiate, sell a home, market a home. That's just another angle that we're seeing across the country.
So many questions. We do need to wrap. Zeyneb, in a second, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to encapsulate the current state of policy, federal funding, and questions in that vein. I did want to note that we have some climate investors and advisors on the call, and just the question of not only public funding, but market rate or community development finance subsidized, or patient investments in these sorts of structures are a huge area that maybe we'll have another Carsey Policy Hour on it. But Zeyneb, where do we stand?
Okay.
I know it changes day to day.
Okay, I'm going to try to pack. So first of all, I think it's important to mention that our current administration is very pro-geothermal. And the only tax credit that still stands is the geothermal commercial tax credit in the House bill. We don't know where that's going to land, but that's critical. This is a path forward at every level. And then I would say the other piece is we are so in the learning mode. Yes, it works, but how do we come down the cost curve? And I'm really excited about the initial data. So stay tuned. Our modeling tool and data show that the system in Framingham is vastly outperforming the model. And that is incredible news, and more soon.
Excellent. We are trying to set up a site visit. We will more on that to participants in this call. So thank you for joining us. Thank you once again, Zeyneb Magavi from HEET, Liam Needham, Eversource. It must be so gratifying to spend 10 years behind the scenes working on something that is a good idea, but you're bursting through newness and then have it explode into relevance. So let's keep tracing and learning from this demonstration project, inspiring and guiding others. The recording and slides will be online by the end of the week on our website, where you can also find previous Carsey Policy Hour sessions. Carsey Policy Hours will break over the summer and return in September with exciting new programming to help you understand and navigate the shifting policy landscape to the benefit of our communities and our natural world. Have a wonderful summer. Be good to one another. We'll